Hi, it's Claire and I'm here to discuss James Mack's video available on YouTube, link in the description box. He interviewed Posy Parker, Kellie-Jay Keen yesterday and was an incredibly hostile interviewer. Contrast with his approach today with Mr. Debbie Hayton. I'm now going to play the selected clip.
James Max on Talk Radio. So yes, very good morning to you. I don't think you could have avoided it yesterday on Twitter, because yesterday I did speak to Kellie-Jay Keen, founder of Standing for Women, regarding the absence of the author J.K. Rowling from the upcoming Harry Potter reunion TV special. And to be honest, a lot of things about that have happened in the last 24 hours. So there are a few things probably that need to be said, and there are a few things that need to be discussed, and maybe there's some learning to be done. That having been said, when one listens to these discussions and these debates, if anybody thinks that I, or indeed others, don't understand the complexities and how toxic the discussion has become about women and women's rights, but then also about trans and trans issues, then, you know, we need to wake up. This is a very difficult area to have a conversation about. And frankly, when I went into the discussion, I was thinking, well, I don't really understand why J.K. Rowling, you know, she's written all these books and they're not speaking to her. And to be honest, it's not something that I'd looked into that deeply. Of course, every single subject that we do research, we look into it, we think about it, I read things. But there are a lot of subjects covered in a 4-hour radius show. So I'm not necessarily going to go into every minutiae. And frankly, I've steered clear of this topic. And I've steered clear of this topic because I know how toxic it is. And most people do steer clear of it because they know how toxic it is. But when Kellie-Jay started to talk about things in the way that she did, I'm afraid I found a lot of what she said deeply uncomfortable. And I found it deep.
He was uncomfortable with Kellie-Jay Keen talking to him.
Uncomfortable because stereotypes and tropes that were used 20 years ago to describe gay people and to not allow them the human rights that
So first of all, this guy is heterosexual, as is Kellie-Jay Keen. So first of all, there's no reason why two straight people should be having a discussion about gay rights in this day and age. There are plenty of lesbian, gay and bisexual people that you could ask for their recollections of that time, because we're so lucky to have so many of the leaders of the gay rights movement still with us. And many of them are in a new organisation called LGBT Alliance. So 20 years ago, I was already an adult, and there was not a huge social stigma on homosexuality at that stage. We were still pushing for legal rights, for the rights of adoption, for the rights to gay marriage, etc. But most of the social stigma around homosexuality had already fallen away by that stage. He's referring to a time that's 40 years ago, which is when Section 28 was still in effect.
We have in today's world, you know, whether you go back to Section 28 or all the other things that we had, all those discussions about what you teach young people, how you teach them at school, or the fact that, you know, predators and all this other stuff that went out, it was all being repeated, and I felt.
Okay, Kellie-Jay Keen did not say that all gay people were predators. She did not say that all trans people were predators. She said that violent crime and crimes of a sexual nature are overwhelmingly committed by men. We know that 98-point-something% of all the people convicted of violent and sexual offences are male. The sex disparity in criminality is one of the basic facts which has guided the provision of prisons, and which you know, probation services couldn't operate without understanding the different demographic risk factors for repeating offending behaviours. So some men feel offended when you say crime is overwhelmingly a male pursuit. Violent crime particularly is overwhelmingly a male pursuit. But, you know, 95% of the incarcerated population in the UK is male. And the reason for that is because males are overwhelmingly more criminal, more violent than females. And, you know, we can argue nature and nurture about that, but those are the bare bones of the facts that we have to deal with. So what women are saying is that we have sex-segregated spaces for reasons of safety, because we know that our demographic of other women are far less likely to be violent or to assault us sexually than an equivalent number of random men. This does not mean that all men are predators. There are many, many men who are lovely, and, you know, that they are not offended by us talking about this, because they recognise that they share some of the same demographics with people who are not so lovely and who we definitely do not want in our spaces. So, you know, to refer back to the safeguarding videos that I did, you know, we safeguard against the worst that can happen. And one of the most basic and most effective safeguarding measures we can take is to ensure that women and girls have single-sex facilities where they are vulnerable because they are disrobing, or because they are vulnerable because they are sick, or because they are sleeping, or because they are incarcerated. These are sex-segregated spaces in order to provide safety, privacy and dignity to female persons.
Very uncomfortable about that. In addition, I feel very uncomfortable when people start to talk about something just with a broad brush, because we've seen how minorities are treated.
I don't understand his point here. We're speaking with a broad brush because male and female are one of the most basic ways of categorising most animals. Certainly, you know, this is something we share with all mammals, reptiles, you know, this is just something that's commonplace in the animal kingdom. There are two sexes. It's a very broad brush thing. Safeguarding works on the basis that we apply these broad brush strokes because we know they're effective and we want to provide safety to people. It's not personal. There's no reason to get personally upset about it. It doesn't apply to you. It doesn't apply to you.
In society, we've seen what happens when minorities are treated badly, whether it's because
that vulnerable minority of middle-aged white men who want to wear frilly knickers. Honestly.
of their religion, or the way they live their lives, or the fact that they...
Here's the thing, women that have the religious or cultural background that means they are not prepared to mix with males while they are vulnerable by reason of undress, or when they want to pray, or when they want to do exercise and unveil their hair, those women have rights. Those women have rights, and Muslim and Orthodox Jewish women have the right to single-sex spaces. And, you know, leisure facilities should be guaranteeing them. Otherwise, you're excluding huge numbers of women from accessing those facilities.
They are perhaps slightly different from the norm. And I know that lots of people have told me on Twitter that, you know, we're speaking for the 51% and you're just a minority and what do you know, and you're a man and you're middle-aged and all the abuse and everything else.
Okay, it's not an abusive thing to say to a man that they are a man. It's not an abusive thing to say to a middle-aged person that you are middle-aged. It is abusive to use slurs, and it is abusive to make threats, and I would go so far as to say that it potentially borders into harassment territory if you're making threats and being extremely unpleasant towards somebody. I'm thinking of the kind of things that get routinely said to J.K. Rowling on Twitter. But you can search the hashtags for yourself and find that women were not abusive to this man. They just replied.
It becomes so toxic that we can't have a proper conversation about it. This is the home of free speech. And yesterday went away when I said, oh, you know, maybe you should cancel. It was more because that...
You said that she should be cancelled because you didn't like the fact that she was a woman with an opinion.
That's what's happened to J.K. Rowling. That's what's happened to people within this debate. That's what's happened elsewhere. And we don't have proper conversations where there perhaps needs to be learning. So there we are.
You can't have a proper conversation if someone's going to accuse you of bigotry when you explain that there are two biological sexes.
Some of what I think about this, but not all. Meanwhile, let me speak to somebody who perhaps has a slightly different view on this, Debbie Hayton.
So thanks for watching. I think I'm supposed to say, if you like the video, please press the button down there that says like. If you didn't like the video, press the button down there that says don't like. I don't mind which button you press, but pressing one will help me to get seen more easily. I think I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Am I a proper YouTuber now?